Hello, I'm Andrew Bliss. Tonight, we're going to be giving you a presentation on the Big Dry Creek Sewer Improvements Project and work that's going to be taking place in the open space near City Park. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to add them into the chat box on the GoToWebinar platform. We'll be monitoring questions throughout the presentation and taking breaks periodically to answer them. Speaking tonight, I'm Andrew Bliss. I do communications and outreach for Public Works and Utilities. Kent Brugler, he's the project engineer on this project and the senior engineer for Public Works and Utilities. He'll be providing a lot more detailed information on the project background and scheduling and impacts. We're also lucky to be joined by Melanie Walter with Community Development. She'll be talking about some stream bank improvements that'll be taking place in the same area following the sewer project. And John Van from our Parks and Recreation Department will be talking about park improvements that'll also be happening after the sewer project. Our goal tonight is to provide an overview of the Big Dry Creek Sewer Improvements Project, get into some more details about work that's going to be taking place in the open space near City Park, start talking to you about what will be taking place after, some improvements that are going to be happening after the sewer project, and then we'll provide some information on how to be in contact with us, learn more, and we'll be taking breaks throughout to answer some questions. Before I hand it over to Kent, I'll give a very high-level overview. The Big Dry Creek Sewer Improvements Project is a $32 million investment in safe sewer services. The project is currently underway. We're doing mostly sewer lining work that's less invasive than some of the pipe replacement work that will be taking place. And it's taking place throughout the northern part of Westminster currently. One of the reasons why we're doing this presentation tonight is because there's lining work that's already happening in the open space near City Park, but there's going to be some new pipe installation work that'll be taking place that'll be much more visible. City Park's going to remain open. Trails will remain open, but there will be detours, and we'll get into that more. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Kent Brugler. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Again, name is Kent Brugler. I'm engineer in utilities engineering with the City of Westminster. I'm project manager for this particular really critical sewer improvement project for the city. So very exciting project, very large scale, and there's quite a lot of moving parts. So we'll try to cover all those for you tonight and give you an idea of what to expect as you're walking and watching the work in City Park. A couple of years ago, in 2018, we realized through some observations that we had some capacity issues that were developing in the interceptor system, and we call this the interceptor because it's kind of a main artery collector, if you will. Mostly branch piping connects to it, not a whole lot of direct sewer connections from any businesses or homes. But it does carry through this area the bulk of the flow from basically north of 92nd Avenue. About 3/4 of the city is served by this particular interceptor system. And the lower quarter of the system below south of 92nd flows into the Little Dry Creek interceptor and is treated at Metro. The Big Dry flow is treated at the city's wastewater plant at 130th and Huron. So we realized we had to kind of put a little pause on development applications in 18, and we initiated a very detailed study of our system, surveying every pipe. It's 22 miles of pipe in this Big Dry Creek interceptor. So we surveyed every manhole and verified pipe diameters and updated our hydraulic model. And fortunately, we were able to determine that with the new information and a few tweaks to the system, we could reopen the development community to continue to proceed. We had enough capacity to allow it to continue. And we did some emergency work initially, very quickly in 19, to bolster one of our existing pipes that really flows from City Park area all the way north and east to the Big Dry Creek plant. And that gave us a little bit more comfort level that the system was able to handle all the flows that we were seeing. This project, after we completed the design, we're adding a second pipe. There's already an existing 30-inch diameter pipe that goes essentially from behind the Butterfly Pavilion near Highway 36 and to the northeast as a single pipe through City Park. And then we do have two 30-inch pipes from there all the way to Huron Street, from basically Sheridan 112th to Huron. So this will add a second parallel 30-inch pipe through City Park from the Butterfly Pavilion to about 112th and Sheridan. And this will add this resiliency to the system. The pipes are over 50 years old, and the lining portion of the project that's underway now, you'll see the above ground pipe and some big red pumps sitting by City Park Pond. But that's the first phase of this through City Park. We're lining the existing pipe, and then and I'll talk more about what that means. And then we're adding a second parallel pipe for about 7,000 feet. So it's really protecting our wastewater service, protecting the environment, and really just bolstering the resiliency of the system. Health and safety to our workers, to the public, to the fish and wildlife in that area is very important to us, and we feel investing in this infrastructure now is really critical before there's any failure. So we determined that this is the best way to approach this this particular part of our system. So Andrew, next slide. So one of the things that we've, I guess, taken a greater approach to, a greater effort is making sure that our community, understand what we're doing, know why we're doing it, and give us feedback about how we're doing it. And that's why we created this a website just dedicated to this project. But we have a commitment to maintain trails open as much as we can. We know this is a heavily used corridor, and it's important that we execute this project and still maintain that outdoor enjoyment. After the year we've had, I think everybody wants to be outside, and we're going to do everything we can to maintain flow through this area. We have some detours that are set up, some trails that, while we're closing maybe a main trail along through City Park, we're building another one that'll extend the trail on the north side of the creek from the bridge that crosses the creek there by the pond over toward the west end, and we'll have a new pedestrian bridge installed across the drainage at that end, and that'll be a permanent improvement to be an alternate route for folks biking or walking in that direction. This project will not impact any local sewer services. We were maintaining sewer flow through the system at all times, bypass pumping where we need, and you see again that set up or being set up now for some work that's coming up very soon. You'll hear lots of notifications through Facebook or on the city's website, direct mailings, postcards we've sent, some door knocks on specific activities just to give the immediate residents heads up. So we're really doing everything we can to keep people informed. There's lots of signs. This picture shows you one sign that we have on site in both English and Spanish to try to again, communicate what we're doing, give some connection to a website, and the phone number is a hotline that can be called 24 hours. And it's really important that we message this and people understand what we're doing. We appreciate any feedback you can give us during the project. And again, there'll be email and a hotline 24 hours a day available. Biggest thing is we're really limiting our working hours generally from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. There are some cases where in order to do some work around the trail or crossing the trail to keep it open, we'll do that work at night, and we'll try to really minimize the impact to the local residents. But unless there's a request made and it can be justified to work longer hours, we will keep it to 7 to 5. But there may be some changes to that, and we'll try to communicate that ahead of time. Okay. So this is a pretty busy map, a lot going on, but basically it's to show you the extent of the this work area through City Park. The bottom left, the southwest corner, that starts right behind the Butterfly Pavilion. We have additional interceptor pipe that extend west from there. There's 2 different lines that extend to the west, and they join at this point and go down a single pipe. We are putting in a parallel pipe from this point all the way to the northeast past City Park and across the creek, and tying into a new structure that we're constructing near 110th and Sheridan. The orange line is that additional pipe. There'll be some local detours. If there's a local work area that's affecting a trail, we'll have a kind of a little local detour, maybe a dismount for bikers to walk around in a work area, but we will maintain continuity. There'll be no dead ends where anybody has to turn around. There'll be several access points, construction access. A big one is at that intersection you see with the yellow lines converge at 107th and Sheridan. Will be a construction access. Right now, there's a signal there, but there's no movement to the east into the park area. We will, our traffic folks have already constructed some signals improvements there, and we're going to be adding additional signage and some controls for construction traffic that'll come in and out at that area, down to what we're seeing as a construction storage area that's just on the south side of the creek. Those roads will turn into permanent trails when we're all done. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that's to be restored in a minute. So, we got a big work area behind the Butterfly Pavilion, and across 104th, we have a micro tunnel actually that's going to be bored under 104th all the way past the Tribute Garden. That's to minimize disruption to the roadway, and the vehicular traffic. Will maintain the underpass for the trail as well through there. So let me see. There'll be a couple of construction access off. Let's see. It'll be about 110th and Eaton, I think, and another one down by the Tribute Garden area off that parking lot by Christopher Fields. So lots going on. There'll be mapping on our website, and that's a kind of an updated daily with current construction activity and information that of work going on any particular day. So I highly recommend you take a look at the city website for that, and I think there'll be information here at the end about that. Okay, Andrew, I think that's all we need to talk about there. So I've talked about 2 different pieces to the project: the lining of existing pipe, and it's kind of, you can see in the picture, it's basically we are putting a pipe inside the existing pipe. It's a kind of a fiberglass soaked with a special resin. It's a tube that's pulled into the pipe, and it's inflated with air, and then we harden that resin inside the pipe with ultraviolet light train that's pulled through very slowly. And this method is pretty state of the art. It's been around for a while, but this is a pretty large scale project for it. But we went this route because it's much more environmentally safe. There's very little styrene, which is the chemical of the resin. It doesn't get released into the atmosphere or into the water, wastewater supply. So perhaps you've noticed that we did a project a few years ago that used a different curing process, and it might have been a little more noticeable. This should be essentially unnoticed by anybody living along this area. So that work is going to take place basically now through the end of June. We're setting a bypass pump now, so we bypass the flow about 3,000 feet downstream to another manhole so we can line all of the pipe in between. We have to clean it and televise it to verify the condition, and then pull the liner through manhole to manhole. So that should be done again by the end of June. We're getting ready to start that here in another week or so. The second phase, the second type of construction, is what we call open cut, which obviously is much more invasive. It's where we actually dig a trench and put a pipe in it, and that'll take place from basically a little north of the Tribute Garden all the way through City Park and cross up to 110th and Sheridan area. There'll be another 30-inch pipe, so quite large and quite deep. Some of this trenches will be 20 plus feet deep, so it's going to be quite a project. That's why it's projected to start with some of the contractor mobilization in this month. Later on this month, you'll see some activity, but the actual hard work will be starting probably in later June. We expect all of this work to go through on the lining side. On the pipe installation through the City Park area through nearly the end of next year. The lining project is almost, it's all the way almost from Stanley Lake all the way to our short of our treatment plant at 130th and Huron. That's been going on now for, maybe 8 or 9 months, and we expected that to go to last another few more months once the City Park area gets done. So been a lot of activity through the winter on that project. Again, these schedules are estimated right now. We found that the last 6 months or so, the weather has been controlling our schedule quite a bit. It's been so wet, and it didn't get as cold as we wanted to in the winter. Believe it or not, we wanted a very cold, very dry winter, and we got about the opposite. So hopefully our summer's gonna help. The moisture's great. We need it. It's difficult for construction. So looking forward to a good summer here and again next year. So okay. I think this next slide gets into real quick about the lining. We really is a way to put a pipe inside a pipe. Instead of digging up the old pipe that maybe is damaged or leaking, if it's generally in pretty good shape, but leaks water, we can pull this liner through and basically, without losing too much of the pipe carrying capacity, have a brand new pipe inside this one, and it's a standalone structurally sound pipe in and of itself, and very smooth, and it's a fiberglass based pipe, and it's projected to have at least as long a life as the hose pipe that was in there in the ground to begin with. So we're hoping for a good 60, 70 years at least out of this pipe. We bypass the flow, pull a pipe, this tube, the saturated tube, into the pipe from one manhole to another, inflate it, and run this ultraviolet light apparatus through to harden it, and then finish cutting the ends and moving on. It takes about 1 day to do a manhole run, and about a day ahead of that to prep it. So it's once they get rolling, it's a pretty fast moving process. Okay. So the open cut, the new pipe, this is kind of an idea of the kind of equipment that we'll be using. It's such a deep trench, so it'll take very large excavators. But we'll be installing this new pipe next to the existing pipe that's being lined, generally in 18-foot lengths. So it's a process, and because it's so deep, and we expect groundwater to be pumped and managed, it's going to be a process to install this pipe. There can be lots of different heavy machinery with excavators and loaders, and lots of dirt going out and new rock coming in. So yeah, it's going to be a busy area. And we've tried to stage the work areas and storage areas so that it's away from the most of the public that'll be using the park area. And we know there's lots of events that are scheduled there, and we'll take special precaution to protect the work area from the events, and just make sure safety is maintained at all costs. And again, the city park will remain open, all the fields will remain open, the trail system will remain open, and we should see very little impact to the use of the area. Okay. Again, safety is a big issue for us, not only for the workers, but for the public. We have lots of signage that'll be posted there. When trails are closed, there'll be plenty of notice. We just ask everybody to obey any flaggers that are out there directing traffic and obey the signs. Just watch your speeds through the construction zones and dismount where we need to, and just stay out. This is mostly for the younger kids. Stay out of the storage areas and the fenced off areas. And we will have our own representative on site during the day as an observer, and again, call the hotline if you see anything that catches your eye that you want to pass on, or at least have addressed, whether it's noise or whatever you experience. Let us know, please. Okay. So the last element of the project is how's this area that's all going to be torn up, how's it going to be restored? So we've done something different on this project that we haven't done before, is we've broken out the revegetation and restoration of the disturbed areas as a separate contract, a separate design, separate contractor. Most often it's included in the pipeline contract, and it's often an afterthought or just isn't well planned. So this restoration of this area, it's not a small contract. It's $1.4 million in revegetation and replanting and irrigation to establish the revegetation. So it's really a key element of the success, because it's what we all see at the end, and we want it to be what everybody expects. And we also actually expect it to be better in some of the open space areas, because we will be adding some irrigation to get it established. And right now, some of it's pretty sparse. So we really hope to make it better. We document the conditions before and after, so if any broken concrete is repaired and things like that are accounted for. Again, we hope to restore to better condition. We'll be starting this work kind of as we go in the project. There's going to be some disturbed areas that'll be worked on this year toward the fall, and then a lot of it will take place next year as the contractor completes work in certain areas. So we're not waiting until the end of the pipeline work. So it'll hopefully kind of be lockstep with them, and things can get a head start on getting some growth started. And we are partnering really closely with Parks and Open Space on the contractor selection, the kind of restoration we're doing, and having them involved in the project as it unfolds in the restoration aspect. So we doing everything we can to ensure success in that regard. So yeah, that might be all, Andrew. I don't.
Yeah.
You wanted to go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Kent. I don't see any questions at this time, but maybe we just pause here for a few seconds. If you have any questions about the work that's going to be happening in City Park for Kent, this would be a great time to ask it. We're going to transition here in a few moments to talking about the future stream bank restoration and park improvements that'll be taking place.
And if not now, there's always opportunity to throw questions onto the website and leave a voicemail on the hotline. And I think it's checked every day, and somebody will respond.
Yeah, it's checked on business days. If there is any emergencies, just contact 911 directly. But general project questions, yeah, email, voicemail, we check that on business days. And with that, thank you so much, Kent. We will now transition to Melanie. Melanie, if you want to join us. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
And thanks for that presentation, Kent. I'm Melanie Walter. I'm the floodplain administrator for the City of Westminster, and I'm the project engineer for the stream stabilization effort through the City Park area. And as you can see by that photo, we have quite a few vertical drops from the bank down to the stream level. Our effort is to try to soften those. We're teaming with Mile High Flood District to repair some of these vertical banks and restore the green space near the creek, so it won't be kind of brown and vertical like you see in this picture, but more of a softer bank and more of a green space that's a nice interface with the stream itself. So we're planning to start this work at the tail end of the sewer project in 2023. So it's more of a seamless transition. So the intention is to make it more of a seamless transition from one phase to another. So with that, I'll turn it over to John Van, who's from the Parks Department, who's going to talk more about the park improvement plans that kind of stem from this restoration effort.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is John Van. I am one of the 2 senior landscape architects in the Parks, Recreation, Libraries, and Open Space Department. My role here at the city is to help design and manage the development of outdoor recreation facilities and amenities. What you're seeing on your screen is a representation of some very general and very early thoughts of development and changes that could be possibly made to City Park. The city sees this time following all these sewer and stream bank projects as a major and rare opportunity that will provide almost a once in a lifetime is the easiest way to call it. Once in a lifetime opportunity to make improvements to City Park without further disruption. What we hope to do is be able to follow in conjunction with these projects and immediately afterwards, and be able to bring in some new opportunities to City Park. We'll be looking at things like additional bridges and trails, family activity areas, nature areas, and other types of environmental enhancements along Big Dry Creek and the trail system. We will also look at some additional opportunities in our active offerings in the park, such as court play, new play areas, renovations to existing facilities, and the addition of other new activities that may have not been designed somewhere else in the city. We will be utilizing public surveys. We'll be using input sessions throughout this process. We do understand that this will take us a couple of years before we'll be able to begin any kind of construction. And so we are just at the very beginning right now. So what I encourage you to do is stay tuned to the city website and to other areas where we could put public notices for opportunities for your involvement. We're very excited as to where this will lead and some of the things that will be new and exciting for our residents here in the city. And that'll do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Melanie. Before I turn it back over to Kent in a few moments, just want to pause here to see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions just yet. And I know these improvements are out into the future, but we thought that it was important to give everyone a heads up, and really appreciate John and Melanie sharing these plans with you tonight. I'm not seeing any questions, so Kent, I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk about upcoming schedules.
Great, thanks. Yeah, a lot of exciting things happening through here, and I the old adage, temporary inconvenience, permanent improvement, it kind of can be overused, but truly these improvements will just add so much safety and usability to this corridor than what we have now, and I think it's just going to be a beautiful spot once we're through all this. But on our schedule for the pipeline, there's currently activity on the lining side of things that'll go through June. The big heavy pipeline construction will start mobilization of the contractor in a few weeks here, possibly as early as later next week, and they'll be setting up their access points and roads and staging area and fencing and things like that. It takes us a while to get to a point where we can start putting the shovel in the ground and building something, just with all the reviews and approvals of materials and things that take place in the early part of a project. So we're expecting the really heavy construction to start in July and early August. We're going to be working multiple areas. There'll be multiple crews working on both ends of the project and in the middle. But overall, we expect it to take a little over a year to construct. The contractor has a very aggressive schedule established. The impacts of the pandemic and access to materials and availability is definitely something we're working through. A lot of commodities have been slow to recover, and we're still working through what those impacts will be. But so far, it doesn't appear to affect us getting started. So we're going to be working in the sewer construction, the new pipe through the end of next year, roughly. Site restoration will kind of take place later this year to start, and then through 22. And some of the follow up, with vegetation, the winter isn't a great time to try to get things to grow. So some of that might bleed into the spring. And then we have a several year warranty period where there'll be follow up work to revegetate, reseed, and things like that, areas that weren't successful the first go around. And then as Melanie and John have talked about, the stream bank kind of stabilization work take place probably in 23 through 25. I know that's kind of big picture, but they have a lot of work ahead of them to get to that point. And but I think we got a really interesting and exciting concept, I think, to improve this area for the long term. So bear with us. Keep watching. Let us know how we're doing, and I look forward to maybe talking to you folks again before the project's all over. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kent. So this is our last slide for tonight. If you have any questions, please submit them in the chat or questions box now. Wanted to end on a slide of how to get more information and how to get into contact with us. We do monitor a project email and a project voicemail and respond within a business day typically. Feel free to ask any questions, whether it's a concern you have or just you're curious about the project or what's going to happen next. As Kent mentioned, we have a pretty comprehensive project website. It includes a dynamic web map that gets updated as the project continues. We have an email list that you can sign up. We send emails out at every major phase change in the project. And we'll probably put the recording of this video and some other updates up there as well. And I'm not seeing any questions. So with that, I want to thank Kent, Melanie, and John for your time tonight and presenting, and appreciate everyone that attended the meeting. And if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you.